Going to start with the Irish Sun this morning. Gunners tough on free, so Arsenal have decided that, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me a million times, shame on me again. And again and again and again and again. Apparently now they've decided it's a bad idea to allow their players reach the final 2 years of their contracts. So instead what they're going to do is give massive pay increases to everybody who's just about good enough to be at the club, but not that good enough to attract any transfer attention. Hats off Pep, his classy tribute to City Parade trophies. So the wave of anti-Manchester City stuff has passed, and now all the newspapers are today celebrating Manchester City because they had an open-top bus parade. That's all it takes to change the news agenda. Arrivederci, he's number one choice for Juventus. Maurizio Sarri wants a quick decision on his Chelsea future with Juve ready to pounce. If you're Sarri, you're getting out of Chelsea, right? If the same money is available to go somewhere like Juventus, particularly, you're getting the hell out of Chelsea.
Have Chelsea actually sorted out their situation with Antonio Conte yet? I don't think they have.
They still own the money.
Like, Chelsea just have a queue of people lined up outside Stamford Bridge waiting for their money to actually rest in their account.
And then Harry Kane is fit for the... Who knew Harry Kane was going to make it to be fit for the Champions League final? If Spurs play Harry Kane in the Champions League final, it will bite them in the ass.
If they start him?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the common conception now is that it will actually, or the common misconception is that Harry Kane being fit would be a good thing for Spurs from the start. Personally, I get the whole idea why you wouldn't start Harry Kane in this situation, given a lack of match sharpness and given what's actually got them there over the last round. But say in an alternate reality, if he was fully match fit, if they had 2 Premier League games going into it, you start Harry Kane.
Yeah, but he's not fit.
Well, that's the thing. He's not going to be match sharp.
No.
But you would like to think he'll get back to close to full fitness, but then actually being fully match sharp is a completely different thing. The Times have an interesting one this morning. They lead with All-Ireland League moves a step closer. It's John Fallon's story, and it's about an All-Ireland League. Niall Quinn involved in this, and clubs and cross-border associations are meeting to join forces for an all-Ireland league. The initial suggestion that there'll be 14 teams, 8 from the League of Ireland and 6 Irish League representatives, and there'll be a new era of football. Niall Quinn already sounding out potential sponsors and television broadcasters. Of course, this has been something that's come up before, 2008. Most recently, Fintan Jury was involved in that proposal. There was support from most clubs on that situation, but the FAI and the IFA were less enthusiastic about it on that occasion. So Niall Quinn leading the charge in this All-Ireland League. I think everybody sees the positives behind this. Whether or not you're going to get everybody rowing in behind it is an entirely different question.
Yeah, and obviously they have separate organising FAs within UEFA, so presumably UEFA and FIFA have to get on board because, according to them, it would be different FAs having teams. Obviously it works for the Welsh FA and in England, but it can't work for Scotland for whatever reason. Hazard can go. Blues will sell star to Real to balance books. Chelsea are prepared to sell Eden Hazard to Real Madrid this summer despite the threat of a transfer ban, because to let him leave for free next year would have repercussions for their financial fair play figures. So, maybe financial fair play is somewhere buried in the thinking of these teams at the minute. Hooben Nestle winner. Toner is ruled out of Leinster's Pro 14 decider. So the good news is that coming through so far, and it just seems a bit early about this, that Devon Toner is 4 to 6 weeks, is what they're saying, and is not a doubt now for the World Cup in September. So you would hope that the initial prognosis is correct and that this isn't something more serious, because it definitely looked really bad when he was coming off. So that's great news if it's true.
The Mirror this morning goes with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer saying, "Fat's your loss." He doesn't actually say that, but that's the headline. Solskjaer warning, "We'll ship anyone out who comes back from break too heavy." Pep Guardiola then saying, legend Vince will come back to be boss one day. And Luca gets called from Big Mick. So this is Tottenham target Luca Connell, the surprise inclusion in the Republic of Ireland squad for their Crunch Euro 2020 qualifiers against Denmark and Gibraltar.
Oh, so it's for those games that he's coming in. So we'll cap him for 2 minutes against Gibraltar, and he'll never have to think about it again. So all that, it would have been the wrong thing to do to cap Declan Rice / Jack Grealish in a competitive game, because you'd be bullying a 17-year-old now. Get him in, cap him. Isn't that it?
Yeah, you can't say giving somebody a national cap is a form of bullying. It's a fantastic gift.
Archer call-up means heartbreak for Wiley, or is it Willie? I don't know. 2 L's, it sounds like Willie. Sussex Seamer to cap amazing rise by being named in England's 15-man World Cup squad. The Daily Telegraph Sport, this is welcome to Manchester. City celebrate treble with open top bus parade. Yep, there you go. That's the Telegraph. That's our lead story. And no risk, Brighton chairman insists Potter appointment is not a gamble. He should know, he's a professional poker player. Do you see what they did there?
The Irish Times leads with Rennie makes light of Cullen's Rangers remark. This is a story that's taken on an interesting life over the last couple of days. So if you missed it, Leo Cullen, tongue-in-cheek, obviously, said that all Glasgow players, when referring to Glasgow players, he says they all support Rangers, I've been told. Obviously, the game taking place in Glasgow this weekend. Jim Craig, of course, the Lisbon Lion, has come out to say, if I ever meet Mr. Cullen, I'll have a private word with him. He got his publicity over his words, and maybe that's what he was wanting. So Leo Cullen looking to make headlines, which is probably the most un-Leo Cullen thing you could possibly say. Asked if he was saddened by this remark, Dave Rennie said, he's a good man, Leo. I like him. As you know, I don't read a lot of press, so Jack filled me in on what has been talked about. But ultimately, our thinking is that we've got lots of players who support different football sides based on where they're from. We have a heap of football fans who come and watch and play because they enjoy the entertainment, and that's what we're looking for. Obviously, we represent Glasgow, and we hope that regardless of what support you're involved in, you'll want to be there for what should be a fantastic occasion.
Yeah.
This really has become a bigger story than it probably should be.
Well, it's like, so I assume this is exactly, if this game was in, say, Old Trafford, and there was pre-match press conference, like, oh, you're in Old Trafford. He's like, yeah, I hear they're all City fans, that team that were playing there, you know, to try and get the Man United fans out, right? That was it. That's all it is.
I think you can basically take it as such,
yeah. But because Scotland is such a weird, screwed up society, because it has deeply ingrained centuries of sectarianism, this nothing comment becomes this mad story where people are ringing around ex-Lisbon Lion. Well, his son plays for Glasgow, or his daughter married somebody, or his grandson, or he's got some family connection to it. And it's like, well, I see an angle where we can pile in behind the and try and drive a wedge even deeper into the sectarian society that we live in. You're like, well, if that's what you want for your lives, then go for it. But I'm absolutely certain that's not what Leo Cullen wanted. He wanted to try and, like, you know, try and make the boring pre-match press conference interesting. Well, the media sure learned him. Well, okay, me next, The Guardian. Paceman picked Archer gets nod for World Cup to cap rapid ascent, and I'm representing England, but also British Asians. I know people look up to me. Moeen Ali joins The Guardian, so maybe as a he's going to be writing a column for them. Real struggle. Where next for Bale as Madrid dream turns even more sour? Question mark. For that 500 grand a week, he can taste you a bit of tears, Real Madrid fans.
The back page of the Herald features photographs from Anton O'Toole's funeral, and Gavin faces huge calls is their main story here by Frank Roach. O'Carroll and Costello both pushing for starting roles. So Roach going through some of the big calls for Jim Gavin this weekend regarding whether or not he should start Rory O'Carroll, whether or not he should start Cormac Costello, and whether or not he should start Darren Gavin. For me, you start all three.
Yeah. I think you've got to get Costello into the team early and often this year and give him the chance to be... Because Connolly's not back, right? So you figured that if it was going to happen, did it have to happen by now?
Yes.
Before
well, I said that a couple of weeks ago. Even at the end of the league, once you got 2 weeks removed from the league and there was still nothing regarding Connolly, for me it was like that this thing is done. It clearly isn't going to happen because of the likes of the amount of planning he needs to do, whereas O'Carroll was a little bit more different. He was clearly out there playing and something was happening. So I don't know, I'd agree though. I think you get Cormac Costello in there, you get him the starting minutes, Rory O'Carroll the very same, and I know I've been banging on about him during the league, but Darren Gavin, you start him in the Leinster Championship because he has the potential to be a starter alongside Brian Fenton, in my opinion.
So he's a midfielder?
Yeah.
A point scoring midfielder?
Yeah, well, certainly looking at him during the league, what was the game against Roscommon, I think, was televised live. That sort of charging run right through the centre. Is he too like Brian Fenton, perhaps? I don't know. Like, I'd need to watch a bit more of him in a Dublin jersey to see exactly how Jim Gavin is using him.
Be happy enough with two Brian Fentons.
Just about to say, if you're too like Brian Fenton, it's not exactly a bad thing.
No.
I've got a feeling that come the end of the summer, he might just be his partner, but Michael Darragh Macaulay has proved time and time again that he's still got life in those legs.
The Irish Examiner this morning, Mike Quirk, the games are about players, not whichever pundit is shouting loudest. And Assassin's Creed, Derek McGrath, the genius of hurling's deadly marksman. They're also talking about minor miracles show hurling needs a heavier sliotar. Munster exodus, Howlett heads for home to free up another provincial vacancy. A shame shadow has been cast on good work of the FAI. This is Noel Mooney speaking to FAI TV yesterday, and Teenage Kicks Bargery gets City back to winning ways.
My last newspaper is the Racing Post. The front page is, can anyone stop Stradivarius?
Yeah.
Yes. Price-wise on the Ascot Gold Cup. And the back page then, major player Koepka 7-1 to make US Open history as he keeps hold of US PGA crown. Brooks Koepka is going to be favoured for every major for the next 6 or 7 majors.
Yeah, probably. Unless he has a blow up and has an injury or something again, in which case probably not. But we will come back. Vin will come back as boss. So, I mean, pretty much exactly what we said yesterday when he was going out the door, you know, bowing and saying, "Oh, thank you, you're so amazing, you rich people who might give me a job at some point in the future." And then fit or bust. Ole will show the door to any out-of-shape players, which is the same as "You're the one for me, fatty," or whatever the headline was. And then Regan slams Martin Axing. So Dahi Regan last night slammed the Offaly County Board for axing his double All-Ireland winning colleague Kevin Martin as county hurling boss. Martin has been replaced by Joachim Kelly, Offaly's 4th interim manager in the past 10 years, after another mid-season change of boss by the serial sackers. The Offaly County Board do like a bit of mid-season drama in hurling and football. They just like it. Yeah, you're gone.
I think the football situation was kind of forced upon them last year, to be fair. They'll say the same thing has happened this year given their poor run of results. And like it's tough being Offaly at the moment. It's tough. It's certainly not boring being an Offaly GAA fan,
no.
But it's tough.
Yeah,
and it's
how much of it do they bring on themselves? How much of it do they bring on themselves?
The
sympathy for the county board, 0 on this side of the table. That's what I'm saying.
Remember that win against Dublin in the league last year in Croke Park? Was there ever a falter dawn?
Top 5 false dawns in Irish sports history.
That was emotional stuff for Offaly that night, and clearly it wasn't to be. Like, they might be back, but it's very hard to know exactly how they managed to bridge that gap where they're actually maintaining some level of competitiveness in the Leinster Championship. Because Carlow are clearly better than them at the moment, and what we've seen in the last couple of weeks, they're not even near the top 2 in the Joe McDonagh Cup. They will get back to that level, you'd imagine, in the next couple of years, but actually being competitive in Leinster again seems some bit off. There's a couple of stories we wanted to get onto. I know you've got Mike Quirk's column in front of you there, like also in the same newspaper this morning. You've got John Fogarty basically saying hurling needs a heavier slitter. It kind of ties in with Kieran Cunningham as well in the Star this morning. His basic point is that football is never as bad as it's made out, and perhaps hurling is never quite as amazing as it's been made out. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I can't quite say. He definitely said that football is never quite as bad as it's made out, and this idea that perhaps the ease with which modern hurling players are able to score points is actually bringing the game back a little bit. That obviously we get great excitement, and for me the excitement actually comes from tight affairs. It comes from a brilliant championship structure. It comes from the fact that you've got really good local rivalries and you've got really good local teams going toe to toe. The sport is outstanding as well, don't get me wrong, but could the sport be even better with, say, a heavier slitter? And John Fogarty is talking about the Cork Miners the last day, where a fella scores a free from over 80 metres out, which really, like, you look at Patrick Horgan, he scored from similar, maybe even 90 yards on Sunday as well. Like, fouling just outside the halfway line in the opposition half at this point just isn't a runner anymore in hurling. You put yourself in danger of actually conceding, which is a little bit ridiculous.
Which also makes the sport way better, which means that, like, players aren't tacking you down, which means that it's free flowing, the skill levels, the best players are actually given the freedom to express themselves, while at the same time having somebody dunce you with the hurl in the head and the face and being, you know, quite manly as a sport. Go on, tell me how this is a bad thing.
Well, I think it could be...
Tell me how being punished for fouling is a bad thing?
Well, it's not being punished for fouling, it's being rewarded for having a shot from within your own half.
It's like
being able to actually being able to reach that. Like, I just don't see how the idea of a heavier... I would actually like to see how it would impact the game of hurling if there was a heavier slitter. What would actually
be a heavier slitter like for? I'd like to know how much. I don't know the facts about how different the weight is now from what it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. But the quality of the games that we saw between Kilkenny and Tipperary, when they had their two dynasties clashing, and ultimately it turned out there was really only one dynasty. When Kilkenny won their 4 in a row, when they lost the 5 in a row, they're some of the best sports events you're ever going to see. And
there was lots of goals in those games.
And I presume the equipment hasn't changed significantly since then. Last year's there were a bunch of really top-end games. The final wasn't quite as good a game. It was dramatic, but the skill levels were a bit down because I don't think Galway actually played at their very best. Obviously they had to make that comeback in the last 10 minutes. I think the game is as good as it's ever been, and the notion that somehow it has fallen behind football because we've had 3 good football matches is dumb.
The point about hurling being the idea that it's falling behind football, I don't think that that's necessarily the case, especially at inter-county level. It's clearly not, and I don't think anybody's suggesting that we've got a better product at inter-county level for hurling than football. It's clearly better in hurling when you can actually have these sort of contests. But I think the point here is that the idea of actually getting yourself into more dangerous positions in terms of actually being able to put the ball in the back of the net is lessening. That's the point here, that ultimately if you have the option between working your way into a better position to score a goal, which is a more exciting outcome than a point, that isn't being pursued as often as it used to be. The goal scorers and the prolific goal scorers isn't a thing. It used to be when...
It's far less of a thing, yeah. And so...
the prolific goal scorers, I would much rather see more goals in hurling. The fact that you're able to point the ball from 80 yards kind of removes that possibility a little bit. We are kind of nitpicking here to a certain extent when it comes to actually...
Do you not think football is a better game than hurling, though? Is that not the central thesis of your argument here? That's why you're looking for these nits in the first place.
The essential thesis of my argument is that hurling could be an even better sport than it already is. They've got a brilliant structure, and at inter-county level, it is a far better product. For me, would I rather watch an amazing football game or an amazing hurling game? Probably an amazing football game. Because of where I come from, because of what I've grown up watching, because... for numerous reasons like that, I admit my bias. But ultimately, if you pick out any of the great hurling games over the last couple of years, or you ask me to pick between, say, Dublin and Mayo in the All-Ireland final 2 years ago, Dublin against Kerry in 2013, whatever it may be, I would pick those football games hands down. What would you choose?
I'd pick the hurling game.
What was your favourite hurling game over the last 5 years?
Over the last 5 years? I have to come back to you on a specific one.
Is that because everything is so amazing? That every single week it's like...
No, it's not. I think it depends. The games you're at, I find, are the ones that live longest. So to order them, we had a few disappointing All-Ireland finals and we had a few amazing All-Ireland finals. The All-Ireland final where Tip scalped Kilkenny when the Bowls final, that was too easy for them. Where Waterford didn't perform, that wasn't great. But all the other ones have been pretty sensational. Anyway, if I had to pick, I could order those in time. But I still think that I don't know. I prefer hurling as a sport. That's it. It's a personal thing, and it doesn't actually.
It doesn't matter at all. The essential point of this is that ultimately, would you rather, we all love hurling. Is there a point here that you could actually make this thing even better again if you had more goals scored? For me, it peaked around 2010.
Well, so what is the weight difference in Sliotar from now to 2010?
I don't think there is one. Is there more of a realisation now that actually you can hack the system a little bit more, for lack of a better phrase, by actually taking your scores from further out, not working the ball in?